status, it feels like, on FPX, how they kind of poke away at this TT comp, and maybe some of UCal's carries as we are into picks and bans for game number 1. Now we see FPX on the blue side. They will ban away the Ashe and the Jace. So a little bit of respect towards UCal. Hacker will get his Lee Sin taken away, and the Caitlyn, and has still been forced in the meta. There's that Elise ban.
And the Elise is banned out, so we'll see if TT actually feel the need to ban away the Maokai nowadays. Lee Sin banned away, which has had some buffs as well.
Imagine a world.
I know, it's crazy. The jungle meta, ooh, wow, we've got a Lee Sin back. A lot of junglers have been enjoying that. So, yeah, we have to start thinking what are our first pick priorities going to be. So, a lot of teams have been very much focusing on stuff like the Varus. We see the Sejuani band as well. Actually important in this matchup because, particularly with TT, they play themselves stuff like the OMG are very famous for this as well. They play stuff like the Sejuani Yone. Taking away the Sejuani bans away some of those kind of top-side snowball triple melee comps that we have seen. And Wukong is going to be the first pick, which we've seen the likes of JJ doing very important early game moves on to kind of out-duel his opponent and counter-gank very effectively in the early game.
And that's where I like to see Hacker put a little bit of priority on for him. I think when we saw him successful on Ultra Prime last year, it was when he would get these kind of aggressive champions be able to pull up. I mean, obviously, his most experienced champion is the Lee Sin. He's played like double the amount of any other in competitive. But we like to see that he has some of these unique pathings available to him, so that aggressive movement early on. And it's a good stance for FPX. But immediately you go to facilitation and late game carry for TT in the Zeri and the Vi.
And what this also means is that you have the Zeri who doesn't have to play into a Vi. Because you see the Wukong first picked in there, and you go, okay, well, the Zeri's not going to have nearly as much backline threat onto them. Yeah, the Wukong can occasionally get back in there. But you know what hasn't changed? You know what hasn't changed? It's the Sentinel on the fish, Lucianami. Whoa, we've not seen that one before.
Oh my god. I literally have not actually, like, I'm not joking.
Changed.
It's been banned. It's been banned from every game I've casted in like the last 2 weeks. I've not got to see Lucianami. So honestly, I'm here for it. We're back, baby.
Nothing's changed. We're just sat here. This is like, you know the myth of like Sisyphus in Greek mythology, the guy that just rolls the boulder up the hill every day, and then at the start of the next day, the boulder's just back at the bottom of the hill and nothing has changed. We're feeling a little bit like him right now.
It's the LPL.
Well, things like, it's not just been an LPL phenomenon, it's been worldwide. We've seen a couple of our very top teams have done different things. T1, G2, I mean, even some teams within the LPL have done very different things and they've committed to an identity. But when you have 17 teams, 1 or 2 outliers does not like an overall trend make. And we're not seeing Aurelion Sol. Now, it is, I will say, it is the first presence of Aurelion Sol we've had the entire patch. It's the first ban. But we don't get to see it on the Rift, which I personally am quite sad for. I really want to talk about the champion, but we'll save that for when... you
can see Kare's smile. He was like, man, come on. We do see the Cassidy though ban away, so they are focusing this mid lane. They're focusing some of these solo lane carries.
AP solo lane carries as well, so maybe trying to force TT into a couple more of their AD picks towards that top side. Maybe that means they can go towards something like a kind of like a heavier tank who can itemize more towards one to resist. This champion also got buffed on this buffed on this patch. Words are hard sometimes. It's gonna be it's not gonna be that Cho'Gath which was hovered though. It's gonna be the Gragas locked in. Still an AP tank, which means that you do have a little bit more damage diversity. We'll see what build actually comes in, whether it's gonna be more tanky or a bit more burst. I can see the halfway house with the Rod of Ages as well. But one of the reasons I was wondering whether we might see a full tank coming out of FPX is because you're banning away some of the higher damage AP threats going to late game. Now, if you ban away something like that Gwen, something like that Sion sits there and goes, okay, I'm going to tank up things for forever, stand in front of my Lucian Nami.
Yeah, and again, I think we go back to what we kind of set up for FPX as well, where Fearness is coming in here, has already played a couple games, at least 3 games total so far in this split. But seeing him on the Sion, let's have a tank talk. Let's focus back on Care, LWX. Let's try and get Hacker and Chocho in something cohesive in the early game, and make sure that we don't get run over, because Care and LWX can find the carries. And while on the Annie, it's a little bit more of that setup, I'm definitely looking at LWX to kind of pick it up for this team.
We'll have to with this draft as well. Lucianami, 1-item spike. That is your bread and butter for this kind of composition. On the other side, UCal is going to go back to one of his other UCal Specials, the Tristana, which I think he's 2-1 on that right now. I think he picked up 1 loss, but he's had a fairly large amount of success with that pick. And
Interesting
now that means
into
you're
the
gonna
Annie.
Yeah, the thing about Annie is that she wants to chuck a load of Qs at you, but you don't get priority of the wave. Annie doesn't have wave clear at level 1, so Tristana takes control of the wave, threatens level 2 all in, which means that you have to hang a little bit back in the early levels. Now, with FPX, what that means is that you're largely wanting to be chilling on top side. Gragas pretty okay at taking tank versus tank matchups. I don't think that priority in that map is going to be like the largest thing to play around. Mid lane, largely going to be going towards that Tristana. And then bot side, that means that because you have that mid pro coming in from that Tristana, maybe, because you kind of jungler heading down towards bot side with a bit more impunity, knowing that mid lane can respond first.
And we'll be looking especially at where kind of early prio for junglers come. I think we already talked about Hacker being on the Wukong here and maybe being able to find some kind of early advantages in some respect, or at least some priority somewhere in a lane to work around. But I think he's going to have a lot to answer to on the other side when you're looking at Week7 on this Vi and a lot of the setup that is provided around UCal and the Tristana.
Yeah. So, and the reason I think that is important is because you already talked about how LWX will have to step up on that Lucian and Chocho alongside them on the Nami as well. When you see Lucian Nami picked, and we've seen this as a global phenomena, really, if you don't play effectively around a Lucian's either the early game or that first item spike, why are you picking this champion? This champion needs to be playing through those points in the game, otherwise they get outvalued by other picks across the board. And when you've got a Zeri Lulu, that is one of those picks which will very much outvalue you at some point in the game. So anything which kind of makes it harder to play through your early game, anything which makes it harder for you to kind of activate your one-item spike, it affects Lucian Nami very, very heavily. So looking at UCal, looking at Weik7 to try and derail this bot lane threat before it gets off the ground, because for me, that's basically the only threat on the side of FPX coming into this first game.
And it also is interesting to know when we're talking a little bit more of that side focus on the bot lane matchup as well, where Shen Liu is coming in once again in place of Yao Yao. And I think that might change some things where FPX can find a little bit more advantage with a little bit of a fresher start. But in all actuality, I think that early focus around like level 3 pathing for Hacker and finding out where he's kind of putting his resources in is still so crucial. And I do want to say, I'm going to guess we have something going on with the draft as we haven't gotten into the game after we picked all the champions.
We've been talking about draft for a really long time,
yeah. I just wanted to give a little bit of update. I haven't gotten updated, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw a wild guess out there. We'll be getting in.
I think we'll probably get an update on that.
Oh, we just did. Perfect.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Tell me.
Shen Liu reported a wrong champ select. According to the official rule, we are offering a remake. So previous fan picks will be remained before the wrong pick. So there was a wrong pick.
Yes, but which wrong pick would that be then?
That's on TT side.
So wait. Okay. So what would that?
Was it the Tristana?
But no. See, normally this takes place like normally you remake a champs like as soon as that kind of wrong champion's been locked in, so you've restarted from that point. But we had that full draft, so you have to assume that it's going to be.
Yeah, but Shen Liu was the last pick, and he picked Tristana for the team. So maybe it was something where they wanted to go with something different for UCal in the mid lane.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I did see it not swapped when at least going off context clues when the screen came up, they had the background with all the champions. Shen Liu, when the champions came down, still had Tristana. So even after swapping on the other side, so I'm gonna guess that was it. But that also is kind of crazy because I thought that was like tried and true plan right now for GT. So I'm excited to see kind of what they go with instead.
Yeah, because I mean, for me that draft is it's fine. That I'm happy with that. Just started big log, so maybe it's just a we'll have to see what comes in with that.
Okay,
we're
going back in time.
Go back in time. This is another champion which has been buffed in very important ways as well. Veigar has extra cast range on his Q and on his W, which means that when you are kind of walking up to choke points, when you're trying to poke people out, when you're trying to punish a low mobility mid laner like an Annie, something like that Veigar can give you a lot of power, particularly on this patch. It's been a little while since we've seen them. It kind of disappeared with the durability patch midway through last year when Veigar couldn't just, instantly explode someone with his combo. But it's not going to be the Tristana. Very different flavor of Yordle in the mid lane.
It definitely is, and a lot of late game available over there as well in terms of trying to have that kind of Zeri plus the Veigar in the late game with a lot of setup around team fights, a lot of spacing. Imagine a cask coming through into the walls. It's going to be a lot of setup there available for TT, and we said into this one, FPX are definitely the underdogs, and we have to look at the early pathing and where these resources lie. LWX specifically, he's got to carry.
LWX has got to have his dancing shoes on, because if you do dash into the Veigar, who has a lot of damage if they do get ahead of the curve of the game, that Lucian will be removed from the map very, very quickly. So, loading onto the Rift, champions flashing up on screen, champ select finally completed. Game 1. Very, very important to see how these teams get off to their flying starts. FPX, they really cannot afford... Well, I mean, at this point, it's already looking like a bit of a done deal in regards to if they're going to make playoffs or not, but if it were to be a miracle run for them, it would have to start with games like this.
The Phoenix must find a little bit of fire somewhere. As we hit the Rift for the first time of the day, patch 13.4 has decided to grace the LPL. We'll see what it has to offer. FPX versus TT as the Gyos reign.
5-man fan out across the map from both of these teams. So no level 1 shenanigans, nothing with a Scion bush stack or something like that. Although, quick looking towards the spot side jungle. UCal gets himself a single stack.
There you go! Let's go!
On his, okay, I'm normally pretty good with like passive ability names because I kind of drill myself on a load of league quizzes from how that. You're gonna have to remind me what Veigar's passive is called. It's like stacks of like tremendous evil or something like that. I can't quite remember the name.
Phenomenal evil power.
Phenomenal evil power, there we go. Well, he's already got 3 stacks of it because Kara's walked up.
Whatever that is, I want more of that.
And this is actually non-negligible. UCal has a mana flow band stack and 3 stacks of passive before the first wave even hits. If you're looking to get to a point where the Veigar just immediately one-shots someone, giving them an easy early game, you've taken a chunk out of lane and you're kind of giving them passive stacks, not really how you want things to keep going on, particularly when you have CC combos like you were saying with this composition from TT later into the game. Very much earlier than that though, see Hacker very quickly going red towards top side.
And you see the kind of opposite side starts at least. Maybe Beituan actually trying to get down here and make something happen against this Lucian and Nam. A little bit of wraparound ganks. But I do want to go back to kind of, I know we talked about bot lane a lot, but especially this mid lane matchup because we were putting so much praise on UCal and a lot of the performances we've seen from UCal on TT. And it's been stunning, honestly. We've seen some heads and above performances from UCal, especially being facilitated by the team. But Care on the other side, right? This FPX Blaze call-up last year that was trying to make his own name and hasn't really found that. So maybe a big test for him against UCal here.
It feels like that's the situation for a lot of these kind of like mid to bottom tier table teams right now in the LPL. UCal is kind of one of these players I would say is up there as one of the most... I'm not going to say he would win an MVP vote, but he'd be at least invited to the conversation because of the importance of his team. He has been such a big force of nature for his team. And as much as Care and LWX have had some late game moments for FPX, as you can see by their series score, as you can see by their game score, it's rarely actually been successful.
That's the biggest issue. It's about making it actually work, not just on paper, but in function. Speaking of function, now that we were kind of talking about the overarching piece of mid laners, I do kind of want to go back to the fact that we do have Annie versus Veigar in the mid lane.
Yeah, we've got the Yordle showdown. Not even Yordle. No, I keep forgetting that. No, it's not. It's just a child. I keep forgetting this. Annie is...
Well, can we just... No, we can't just group her in the Yordle category.
No, we can't. Although Annie is...
Okay, we see.
Yeah.
All right. Look at this, though. Look at this, Nightmare. We get a little bit of that cohesion from FPX. They moved all 4 members together to get that scuttle grab. Okay, maybe taking a little bit of a heavy trade on bot lane because of it.
So this is one of the things you're kind of giving up when you pick something like that Veigar, as opposed to the Tristana, which we saw in like the first Champions League, which was like the misclick pick or something like that. The mistaken lock-in. it was... You're going to give up priority from that Veigar. You're kind of chilling up until you get to level 9, level 10, 13, when you kind of maxed out kind of your Q and your W, you can start controlling the wave again, because Annie can kind of keep hitting that wave with the E and the Q, despite Veigar being able to kind of poke out. Does mean you lack some priority, which is giving Hacker a bit of a route onto the map. Looking towards bot lane again
this
now.
Is big.
Low.
Oh, I thought maybe Hacker was going to go for the flash over the wall play just to make sure they can make something stick in bottom lane. Not going to pull the trigger on that one, though. We will have a dragon spawning here pretty soon, but a back indicates no more priority given bot lane. We should get that path towards top for Hacker.
Yeah, so Hacker heading towards that top side again. Do think that TT fairly happy to wait until their ultimates come into play, though. Particularly when you have the ability to vial someone into a Veigar cage. I think it's get very scary for anyone out of position from FPX. You need to be very, very careful if you're walking up even as someone like Hacker, because if you're not immediately being followed up with by a Scion who's kind of entering the play, single targets out of position die very quickly from FPX. So a test of coordination for them. They kind of passed the first test in the very early game, kind of making sure they're all roaming towards Hacker. That's great. As soon as you have a few more levels and items on the board, though, cannot afford to let that slip.
Yeah, definitely not. And that's where like that bar of execution is definitely there for FPX in this one when you're looking at the team fights maybe later on in the objective fighting. Because again, we were talking about so much spacing available in the team fight for TT, and it's going to be a lot on kind of the mechanics, those fleet feet that we're going to need to see from FPX and finding a way to take these. Would you say that it's just kind of a try to take a front to back, make sure you're positioning around LWX and find picks in some way, shape, or form in terms of stuns?
So for me, I think that's inviting a little bit of danger because there's a lot of ways to buy space for Huanfeng on the Zeri. I think if you take those kind of fights from anywhere from 1.5 to 2 items onwards, there's a chance that Zeri just kind of pops your whole team in the way that we've seen a number of times in the last few seasons. I think what you can do very well, though, is this is always going to be the conversation when Lucian's on the table, right? Where you're playing around your first couple of ultimates when you have your Gale Force coming into play. One item Lucian burst plays, that's what you're typically looking for at that point. Doesn't always mean you're looking for that in the 5v5. You're looking to kind of burst someone out before an objective spawns, before you get to the whole phalanx being formed up. That's where I think it has to come around.
We're seeing a bit of a collapse from TT. We actually saw a bit of a roam. Cares going to be stuck here. Does get the CC down. They're going to bring in the flash from Beituan. There's almost enough damage. Flash doesn't go through. The damage doesn't connect from Yucal. They do have a return gank possible in the mid lane.
Yeah, Flash is blown, but so close to Care being taken down for first blood. See the real danger of this mid-jungle combination coming out from TT. You cannot afford to be left alone against the Vi and the Veigar. It's very, very bursty as the game goes on. But Care does survive first blood, not yet taken. Beituan now has his ultimate, though, for the next person in his sights.
Should be a dragon secured by TT, so some nice little bit of a response in terms of those moves that we saw from FPX given to by TT here. So they start stacking themselves up, and again, I think it fits right in the wheelhouse of what they're looking for. They are beautifully set up for the late game. We'll see what happens mid.
That was basically just flashes committed, and
if he's more decisive there, he gets that.
Potentially. I don't know whether his Q is up at that point. It still wasn't max rank Q. It would have been only just level 6 actually at that point. So you only have a few ranks into your Q rather than the full maxed out one. So maybe that's the case. Didn't see the cooldowns on the champion at that point.
Oh my god.
Level 6 is here. Care, he soaks the gang bid, tries to return the favourite bot, but at least being able to back away from Care.
We should get at least 2 plates here for LWX though. Get a little bit of something back. Maybe not actually able to as the clear comes through from TT. Should have another wave here, but taking a little bit of poke on the back end. Now TT themselves, maybe even threatening a collapse. The vision on bottom side has been controlling by Thundertalk Gaming.
Boya roaming down towards this mid lane, spotted on the ward on his way there. We haven't really talked about top lane because top lane's not really been interactive.
It's an island. We visit that later.
Yeah, side quest island. You kind of sat there, it's like, okay, if you want to go for the 100% completionist score, maybe you visit there a little earlier. It gets a little bit different, of course, when you have some of those carries up there. But when you got Gragas, who's just sitting on his tier, sitting on his components, and of course the Sun on the other side, it really isn't going to be the object of these junglers' desire, especially when you've got so much damage across the rest of the map.
What was your favorite side quest ever done?
That is a great question. You know what?
That's a hard question, right?
Okay, so no. Actually, you know what? I absolutely love the Like a Dragon games.
Ooh,
and
okay.
they are basically they are side quest islands. So in their kind of like their prequel game to their franchise, kind of like Zero, that had some awesome moments where you're kind of like this like grown man going to play like slot card, like Scale Electrics racing. That was one of my very favorite kind of side quests. That, you know what? That's probably it for me. But back to the main story though. LWX is currently the one.
He just got walked behind all the way bottom lane. He just gets ulted. Oh, he's all by himself. He didn't know he was being stalked in the night.
Yeah, the electric car's flown off the track. You're gonna have to restart that one as LWX. I mean, has full information as he's walking back up to that turret. Like, decides to walk up anyway.
I don't think he knew they were behind him though.
Becho was literally walking down through the jungle at the same time and then starts hitting the ward. LWX has flash, chooses to stay under turret. I think you can probably get to the point where you get to flash out and live against Vi in a 1v1, but he decides to. I mean, we're gonna go see through the rest of this, right? So
Watch
LWX,
it, like this is dirty, right?
Side. You see a ward there, so you know they have information of where you are heading. You don't see the Vi at this point. When do you actually see the Vi? That's actually quite important to see. You see him right there.
Yeah.
You see the Vi right then, and then you choose to go on the turret. Maybe thinking you can clear out the wave in time, but for me this is just a huge, like, greedy play from LWX. We've seen this a couple of times from LWX in the split so far. It just feels like it's a misread on the situation. It could be a miscommunication with the team in regards to someone roaming towards him, but no one was close. Just a bit of a freebie to give over.
And I'm honestly surprised that Toto and him were so disconnected even on their own. But we'll see if they can kind of clean that up. Again, Vision, bot side for TT, has been so oppressive. Like, they've literally just had wards littering the river, the enemy jungle down there as well this whole time. And you see that they're just playing very reactively to what they can get because they don't need to force anything. It's FPX that need to force things.
Yeah, and the reason why FPX kind of need to force things, I don't want to say force things, but like one of the reasons that they can't afford to be taking this kind of loss at this point is that you've just given gold over to the late game insurance of TT whilst also losing a bit of pace on the player and the champion, which you want to be getting ahead. You have your one item from this Lucian at this point. That's all well and good, but if you're getting to the point where you're getting outvalued by the Zeri earlier into the game, you have put yourself in a bit of a timer. You've cut down your available kind of margin of error here.
And I'm looking now at those completions you're kind of mentioning towards the shield bow, obviously for Wanfang. We also get that Black Cleaver first for Beichuan, and the Rod of Ages there stacking up for Hoya early. So a little bit of that AP focus coming through for the Gragas top side of the map, and do a little bit of damage, and that spacing that they very much need. CTTE at least TP in the mid lane. Rift Herald dropped by Hacker.
Yeah, and Herald's going to be dropped here as Dragon is spawning, so the counterweight Dragon. Cat has flash, has a jungler in his back pocket, so it's just going to be guiding the Herald into the turret. Does manage to share those plates.
Oh man, Hoya.
Tanks, man. It's tanks. They just get to clear the waves, get a bit of proxy farming. Coming out from Hoya on that
So
top
is that
side.
them like on the jet ski around, like driving around the island? Like,
yeah, they're just like they said, you know, I'm just going to do a bit of exploring today. Hoya's joining the rest of the team. But,
so close. Okay, nice little flash there. Had it up just at the right time. Now CT actually collapsing down here. LWX playing very aggressively. Hacker actually didn't see around the corner, but we'll see Hoya now. Cares coming down, has tippers. Hoya over the wall. He has to make it out here with a little bit of speed boost.
So Fairness is TP'd him, has ulti, so if you were to kind of line up in the river, Sion can very much get to that play and start.
Oh, there goes straight
no
for Care. This is it. This is the combo. You find a pick like this and they can't escape. The event horizon makes it so for Care.
FPX cannot afford to be isolated individually out of position. Care has the flash blow, still tries to go towards the team fight, gets caught out for it. Now suddenly, no big engage tool left from your mid laner at this Dragon. It's a freebie going to be given over. TT going to get stack up two of them Dragons early. See what Rift will end up being on from that. But well played for TT to have the vision to make that kind of play. And Beichuan and UCal pulling the trigger very well at that point in time, but it feels like FPX just discoordinated a number of points in this early game.
Definitely so. We'll actually get a little bit of replay of that and just the decisiveness from TT here.
But why is Care here? Well, you know, why is he looking for this
trying
at
to
this
get
point?
to the team. I don't know.
But his team has their Lucian and their Sion looking to push in a wave into bot turret. It's not even like they're in bot river. It's not like you can just pull the trigger and engage somewhere else at that point. They weren't in position to look for a fight, and Care, Bloodley just looks like he missed the memo.
Well, we'll see if maybe the first item spikes help them in some regard, Namira. As we do get the Rod of Ages complete for Care. We also have the Divine Thunder for Hacker now. Care back in the mid lane. We're still seeing a little bit of side lane focus for LWX. But we see plain and simple the TT have said, Wanfang, Chin Liu, you're in mid lane now.
Well, they're about to hit their first item combo.
They're close.
This is where we can... Yeah, it's close. I mean, of course, these supports, they don't really kind of get that same kind of gold income. They have to scrounge a little bit more before they can get those items coming up. But this is the kind of point in the game now where FPX, look, you have stumbled up until this point. You've given a couple of freebies over, particularly those dragons going, make things a little awkward. It is the Chemtech Rift, so it's not the worst soul to give over in terms of early dragon stacking up, so it's sparing your blushes just a little, but it's still not good. But you do have your one saving grace, which is Lucian Army, 1 power spike, just coming around the corner. You are not safe at this point. If you try and go in for that combo now, because you have first items coming in from the Vi, and then of course Wanfang and crew having some decent gold in pocket as well, things get a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Yuka's just caught out of position on the side lane.
Just try to buy some time here to back an extra part of the rod, right? He will not make it out of this slowly but surely. Will be taken down by Care. Gets his first kill of the game, so it is 2-1. But now TT pouncing on the opportunity to take the Rip Herald.
Yes, a complete victory for TT. They get the Herald and they get a few more passive stacks for Vega. This is the true goal here.
That's the goal,
that's
right?
So cool.
Especially when you got Zeri, you got 2 stacking rods. You know, just all you got is time.
You know, Yuka hits a couple of enemy champions with his abilities, gets a couple of bits of ability power for it, walks away a very happy person. No, doesn't really. Does end up dying. Does give the kill over.
Really
yeah, it doesn't really, sadly, as much as we could look for silver linings. What that was just the bit of the cross-map situation. Maybe Yuka could have played just a little further back, as it feels like, as much as it was a little easy for Care to give over that kill around the dragon. This one's even more lazy in a lot of ways. You understand that you're going towards that top side, going towards that Herald, and just misses out on the vision control.
Imagine. What about Yuka saying in that moment? It's like, oh man, Hacker Care right behind me.
I think it's probably oops.
Hey guys, I'm sorry.
Yeah, something like that. But you
so we see the Rip Herald actually use the mid lane here.
Yeah, immediately dropped. Taking mid lane out of turret, of course, one of the most important towers to take in the game. If you have side lane threats, sometimes opening up a long side lane, someone with Jack, or Gwen, or Mir, or what have you, that can be more valuable. But when you're playing around objectives and you're playing around more zone control mages in the mid lane like a Vega, it's very important to take those turrets. But actually, TT, speaking of that, he's going to take himself that bot lane turret as well. Now returning to the scene of his last demise. Continues farming, continues taking those turrets.
We got the combo. LWX and Chocho, they're online.
They're online.
We got the second item also completed for LWX. So actually, that is kind of huge.
You know what they tend to do with that combo? Fight over mid waves. You know what's harder to do when you fight over mid waves? Do that when you don't have an outer turret.
That is hard.
Second Herald, big value from TT to kind of, again, just kind of strip away some of the power from the one combo which FPX.
They lose so much priority on both side of the map here, Nightmare. Like, they are about to be on soul point for TT, and both towers on the outside are gone for FPX. It's going to be difficult to find any purchase in the objective.
Yeah, and last time, FPX tried to find some of that purchase in those objectives that you were talking about. Just ended up with Care kind of walking up, dying for free, with the rest of his team not in position at that point. So FPX really not looking to meet that same fate. And that's why you can see them trying to group up a little bit. Fairness hasn't really impacted this game at all yet. I want to see Fairness come down and
he's setting
play
up the long con.
because what you really need to do is soak up one of these Veigar cages. Care taking the long route round as well. Don't think they've been seen.
They got like a triple flake going on here. I love it.
This could be huge though. This could genuinely be really huge, but FPX need to be decisive about this, need to be dashing in.
They aren't
TT, they
spotting
still
yet.
don't
Here
see
comes
him.
the tidal wave. There's the Flat Dippers! The combo! FPX! That's how you do it! it. And they take a clean fight, at least taking 2 members of TT down. Should be a dragon going their way.
The crafty flank play really works out on FPX. So, Soul Point averted, extra kills on the board. Sadly for them, Baron not available. Maybe they could have looked towards that. This happened just 1 minute later, but it has happened still in a good timing for themselves. Get themselves that objective, get themselves the ability to get some gold back, some control of the map. And walking away a little bit bloody from that. That's an awkward one to give up.
For sure. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I guess we're going to go right back to Care getting picked up this twice now. The Care just seems disconnected. And now we'll see that TT strength get back on the map and put some vision down.
Just as you think, they found themselves a bit of a W, however minute that is. Care oversteps once more. A little bit sad for them. FPX.
Is Yuka playing Ziggs or Vigar right here? Like at this point, I don't know.
So let's describe the champion as like, oh, you know, it's just this small yodel dude, magic damage, has some big bursts in there as well, big team fighter. That really doesn't narrow things down. What does narrow things down in terms of damage potential for TT is having that Veigar move the board very, very quickly. And Ked does find a way to get himself on the board. Then immediately dies afterwards. Caregiving. Can't take it away.
He does. You gotta care about the positioning here, pun intended.
Yeah.
I
appreciate that.
Now Fearn is trying to get active.
I don't care enough to laugh at
yes?
that, but I do care enough to justify it.
Oh man. I don't know what to say because you know, you're using the pun, but you're also not aligning with me.
No,
so.
no.
All right, well, not aligning so far has been FPX, at least trying to get pressure around the game. Now, we do see second item completed for Wanfeng. We see pressure from TT yet again in the top side of the map.
They don't have the Zeri here, though, nor do they have Hoya. Could be a numbers advantage for FPX where they see go towards and fight in that top jungle, but not feeling it. I think if you're not engaging onto the Veigar at that point before it gets his cage down, probably not a winning fight, even if you do have a momentary 4v3. So watch out for that in the next couple of fights. The last fight largely determined by Veigar being taken off the table very, very quickly. TT, however, trying to force the issue. Going towards that Baron.
Wow. Okay.
There's no response quite yet. They see them doing this. They have vision, but how do they enter this fight?
That's a great question. I mean, Care has Timbers, and now TT actually backing away a little bit with Fearness setting up an unstoppable onslaught on the side. And TT will still be looking. Obviously, we had said like their catch-up potential is huge just because of the amount of spacing and lockdown that they have.
So FPX, yeah, they don't really get to choose their fight if TT choose to go towards the objective time after time. They're going to be clearing out vision again. The thing which is kind of holding FPX in an okay state right now is that bot lane is pushing for them. They have control over the side lanes, which means that TT don't have a winning side lane to force teleports out, force FPX to kind of lose on both sides of the map. Does mean that's a bit of a nothing play. TT, they clear out some vision, they threaten a little bit, maybe wait for FPX to make a mistake, but not like FPX really feel too bad about this.
Yeah, but again, we've talked like UCal is just stacking. Plotdog is getting scary on the Zeri. And it does come to those little moments like we just saw where Care gets a big flank, something goes right in the team fight to pick apart kind of the turtle shell of TT at this point, but it's going to get more difficult to pry that thing over. You're going to need a crowbar going into like a giant machine pulley or something.
We don't talk about breaking turtle shells that way. This sounds brutal.
That does sound pretty brutal. But, TT, they're pretty brutal. They're going to start the Baron here. There's a TP, though, from FPX. Hoya. Whoa, big caught out. That's big. That's a lot of damage on Hoya. He might be able to make it out. Culling is there. Look at the backside. Timbers has come down from Care on Shin Liu. He's almost dead here. Now the knockup is not Care. Gets blown up by UCal. Get the trade. Hoya goes down as well on the backside. Took a long time for that to happen, but should be the Baron. Neither side taking it. And the fight kind of just waiting here to a tower in mid lane to FPX.
Yeah, and again, this is very imprecise Baron setup. TT, they push out bot lane a little bit, then immediately teleport Hoya in. It feels like TT, they're playing this a little too fast. They haven't set up the map in their favor to kind of force FPX into a series of bad decisions. And then Hoya gets isolated off on the side. I wonder if TT actually could have returned to the Baron after that point. You use, 5 ultimates, all 5 ultimates on both sides after these first kills come through. Care once again in Narnia, away from his team. Lion the Witch and the audacity of that. Annie trying to go in and trying to find a play on his own. I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's just, why are you there? The rest of your team trying to look for a play onto that enemy top laner, but it's just the disconnect from both of these teams. It's imprecise right now, Marcel.
It is indeed. I think that's something maybe we can expect to clear up to some extent as we go through the series. I mean, it's the first game today, but at this point, we're so far in the season, I don't feel like this disconnect should necessarily be there. We do have some new pieces to the puzzle, but a lot of core members still here for both sides. Now, we did see that Soul Point Dragon going to TT, and it's TT getting pushed on by FPX, and Week7, he gets out.
He gets out, but he uses his flash, blows the Lulu ult as well. You're on Soul Point now for TT. You managed to claim that dragon, but it's not like, again, that's going to be a game-breaking advantage. It is nice. It's not going to be the thing which kind of breaks the back. And TT, it feels like, again, they're just stalling out. It felt like they could have set up bot lane push, roam Hoya back up after controlling that bot lane and heading towards that Baron. It's stalled out now to the point where actually you have 3 items on Lucian.
Yeah.
LWX is actually going to be a threat very much at this point. We talk about the 1-item spike from Lucian, but you still have a large amount of damage at this point. Hair, getting multiple items too. FPX are in a position now where they could potentially look to split open a fight, catch TT with maybe some like Vega out of position who you can't feel for the rest of his team, and they could run away with a fight from that point. So TT,
yeah.
You were in control for a very long time. What's your next step? You're stalling it.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, I guess next step is just keep getting stacks, keep becoming more evil for UCal, as he will be pretty scary. I mean, he just got his 2 sticks into a rod, or 2 sticks into a hat. 2 sticks into a rod makes sense. 2 sticks into a hat doesn't. But it is that 3rd item completed for UCal, and I think something that will be brought home and something that FPX are going to have to deal with here.
So Hoya currently looking into Hacker. Comes up here. Hacker doesn't find too much out.
Little
of
hi,
this,
how
though.
you doing?
Very conspicuously left alone again though is this bot wave, which is just sat in the middle of the map. If you're going towards Baron, you do really want to be pushing in lanes on the other side of the map to kind of again either rush down Baron, force FPX to kind of very quickly respond, which currently TT are not doing, or you force them into a point where they have to answer a side lane somewhere. Right now they're doing neither. Not really getting much of their attention either. On Real into classic A-Ram, and FPX are the ones which are now going to walk into the top river, probably remove some vision, and we're going to start the cycle again.
I'm just saying, I'm all here for the new patch, but if this, you know, 8 kills, 27 minutes with some Annie versus Vigar in the mid lane. That's not what I came for, okay?
No.
We'll see if LPX can bring it 2 ahead here, though, especially with these kind of like minute little fleet moments that we were looking for in the fights from him. And we see
we're getting to the point where the game is
track.
so quiet, where Hoya is throwing out ultimates on Gragas just to stop backs.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah,
I got a question then. I was thinking about this earlier, and I did find a real good time to do it. Now, the Event Horizon from Vigar is the king. Now, it is a cask that Hoya throws, but what if there was like a space Gragas skin that he threw like something related to a black hole, and then you had like the space combo of the Vigar plus Gragas?
I can see
that's so deadly. We saw it happen once already. Like throwing that cask into the middle of an Event Horizon is so deadly.
It absolutely can be. Hold off on the shenanigans for a bit. Can see ourselves in
He doesn't need the Event Horizon anymore. He's just got the kill here, maybe on the Hacker. A lot of healing coming through there, though. Nicely done. And kited out. Toto coming huge, and Week7 is down. It's a trade back and forth. UConn's got one of them. One bump. Engaged on and flexing forward. And that's what Zeri does when you give some resources. As the entirety of FPX is just drawn down the line. And Fearness, you might be tanky, but that Event Horizon is coming for you nonetheless. And TT holistically destroy FPX.
That little maneuver is going to cost FPX 7 years. It feels like the critical mass has been reached by TT. It feels like there's no coming back from that now. It took them a while for TT to actually make use of this Baron, but they eventually find a pick in that top river. They eventually get this Baron after it as well. This should be the game-breaking advantage which TT have been struggling to find for the last few minutes. They're back on course in this game.
Yeah, we'll actually take a look back at the fight. So many little things, but the catch out early. It was sustained so well by FPX. but when the rest of TT come bearing down on you, that's where things begin.
But they're also just engaging into a cage.
3 stuns.
Yeah, it's 3 people locked up by that cage, either by that stun or just not being able to walk forward and do damage. Lucian, once you have your ultimate and Gale Force, yeah, you're fighting the Veigar. Can't really do that with just your auto attack. In a lot of these situations, though, Veigar just makes your life very difficult to execute.
They're just like, hey, the Veigar rot here.
And, you know, go back to that champ select. We saw that Tristana locked in first. I was like, oh yeah, I can see the Tristana working. Went back and said, actually, no, that was the wrong pick. We didn't want to lock that in.
Oh my god, that was just an ultra shock laser on JoJo. He's just having help from that. The cease and desist on LWX. He does get out, nicely dashed away. Fearness is in the back, but oh my god, UCal just deleted JoJo. And Fearness, he's not the wall that you need on the Scion any longer. As this game is over, it feels like TT will just put this mid lane into dust.
Oh man, TT, blink and you miss it. This game goes from really 0, a very grinding, crawling game, to the Nexus in a handful of minutes. They're literally going to be crashing down on Nexus. Doesn't know if they can end it just yet. They're going to give it a good try.
What a beautiful way to ring in 13.4 for TT, giving UCal this Veigar. And the combo of Wanfong and UCal, it is truly that individual carry that we needed to see for both these guys in game number 1. And while we won't get the end here, it has been a stunning performance from exactly what we wanted of ThunderTop.
Yeah, it's another great game from UCal this time. Wanfong doing most of the damage, but particularly in the mid jungle from TT, they had the tools to make things work.
Oh
There's
no!
the combo.
That's the combo!
That fish gets absolutely spaced. Throw it out the airlock. No,
what
now he has to disengage from the spot side.
Guess we're gonna find out a little bit later. Horizon not actually gonna connect that time around. Hacker's been doing really good at buying a lot of this damage for FPX, but in the end, we'll see if this double knockup matters. The Cyclone Shred helping UCal get low. He does end up going down with the damage back. He gets traded immediately. As that will be Beichuan actually making it out. Hoya's just being a menace at this point. Another tower falls in bottom lane.
Wanfong's now here for the party. He has himself GA, so good luck taking down that Zeri. Don't even have himself all your ultimates now, like Sion and the Wukong to really finish off these kills. TT, they have that mid in, they've already taken down the bot one. Big wave crashing in. Wanfong in position to end the game.
He's feeling confident as that last team fight wins his wave pretty well. As now the Cash comes through. JoJo getting a little bit low there, but Wanfong focusing on what really matters and focusing on the Nexus. But now it's all the kills in the eyes of TT. Trying to defend a little bit. Fearless is so darn tanky, but it's still being shredded by Wanfong. Dodging out of the bubble as well. Focusing on the Nexus. TT will take game number 1 of our best of 3.
First game, 13.4 into the books, new patch. Same results as for FPX, but TT walking away with the win from that one. It wasn't the cleanest victory. It did feel like as soon as the Baron came into play, TT, they understood that they wanted to take it. Didn't quite know how to make that a reality though. Took a mistake from the enemy players from FPX to really solidify their advantage in that game. They got the catch in that topside river, and that was really the mistake which kind of broke the camel's back at the point. That was the straw. The thing which